today with Tata Sons Chairman Cyrus Mistry. Remember, discussions have revolved around which is the best possible way for Tata Steel to exit the steel business in Britain. Keep in mind, less than a week ago, you had Tata Steel saying that it had decided to get out of Britain, lock, stock and barrel, when it comes to the steel business. And then, as a consequence, because something like 30,000 jobs were at stake, you had the UK Business Secretary fly into Mumbai late last night to hold discussions with Cyrus Mistry, largely to really figure out the way ahead for these steel assets. In fact, we've got our colleagues Neha Bothra, Abhinava Das, as well as Danish joining in from London to walk us through it. Abhi, the meeting's just about ended, and one would wonder what these discussions revolved around. No news yet, but we know that at least the UK is very keen that this transition be done in, the best possible manner.
Absolutely, Tanya. In fact, the meeting lasted barely an hour actually. We expected a longer meeting, although the details are not out yet. But it's very, very clear that the UK government has tried to impress on the Tatas to make sure that the transition is smooth, to make sure there's a credible buyer in place, and more importantly, to relax the kind of a timeline the Tatas were looking at. In fact, Tatas were looking at a 6-week kind of a window to wrap up the process, to try and make sure that a buyer is in place. But UK wants to make it very clear that since so many lives are involved, it's important that a credible buyer comes in. In fact, in this context, the Tatas will also have made a representation, I'm sure, to the government, that the government will have to support the process of identifying a potential buyer, because there are quite a few names that are doing the rounds. One, of course, is ThyssenKrupp, which is looking at a joint venture with the Tata, with the new facilities that Tatas are looking to put on the block. And also, we also hear about Sanjeev Gupta, the commodities biggie in UK. I mean, that he's also looking at a entry into the steel segment. So all in all, it's definitely not the kind of a long meeting that we expected. But yes, I'm sure the two sides will find an amicable way out. And more importantly, for Tata's, UK is a very, very important market given the kind of success that it has got with the JLR. So that's something that the UK government would have pointed out to the Tatas as well.
In fact, Abhi, hang in there, because we've got Neha Bothra who's joining in on the phone line. Remember, she's posted right outside the Tata headquarters, which is Bombay House, right here in Mumbai. Neha, a 1-hour-long meeting, not as long as we expected it to be. Do we know what transpired there?
Well, it's actually been a 2-hour-long meeting, and we are given to understand that the talks hinged, as we've been speaking about and reporting over the past day. It's mainly been about reaching a common ground as far as divestment of these loss-making steel units is concerned in the UK. Remember that JLR has been mounting some pressure on the group to consider their decision, since JLR, as Abhinava just pointed out, is a gem as far as Tata Steel's, Tata Motors' overall business is concerned. But this time around, the discussion tone is very different. We are talking about 18,000 employees that stand to lose their jobs. Given the situation in the steel sector in the UK at this point is looking very bleak. Remember that the energy costs are very high, and also the fact that there are no safeguards as far as imports are concerned, and Chinese imports have been flooding the market. Margins have been under pressure for consecutive years now, and all these factors have been weighing down Tata Steel's balance sheet. And right now, Tata Steel's priority would, of course, be its shareholders, who would expect Tata Steel to seize opportunities in the domestic market and consolidate and strengthen presence in this market. The meeting, of course, was an attempt by the UK government to try their bit. It's a last-ditch effort of sorts to maybe make Tata Steel management more comfortable in continuing some sort of financial support. The point being discussed here, of course, is the fact that the management not close the plants abruptly and wait for a credible buyer to come on board who can be committed to responsibly handle the fate of 18,000 employees. And we need to see how this pans out. But as of now, the information we pick up from sources is mostly on the fact that Tata Steel may not really be looking to rework its plan as far as the divestment is concerned.
Abhinava, and that's just it, right? As Neha is saying that from at least what we are picking up, it's unlikely that Tata Steel will look to sort of rework its stand. We know for sure that there's, no backing down from the fact that they've decided to exit this business lock, stock and barrel. And why not, given the kind of losses that are only piling up? But to your mind, what is it then that the UK perhaps wants from the Tata Steel, management? Because they've said that they are looking to exit within weeks. Will maybe a few months in some sense provide any solace at all to the UK?
I think that's something that the UK government will be pushing for right now. I mean, obviously, it cannot be concluded in a matter of weeks, something that the Tata Group was looking at. Because if you look at it from the Tata's point of view, the kind of money that was being lost, the Port Talbot plant is losing over £1 million a day. I mean, that's the kind of losses we are talking about here. So they also want to bring in some sort of finality to it, just to make sure that the losses are curbed now and at a very short period of time. But UK government obviously would want this process to maybe get wrapped up in a matter of months maybe, because it involves so many lives of people who are working with the steel plants. And we are talking about almost 18,000 employees directly and indirectly. And for the Tatas, I mean, they also have to keep the government in good humor, given the fact that the kind of success that I've seen with the Jaguar Land Rover. So it's a bit of a complex issue for the Tatas as well. While they need to get out of UK for the steel business as soon as possible, but they need to make sure the transition is smooth. They need to make sure the government is also happy about the way they are going about it.
Abhi, actually, that brings me to my next question. Since you talked about Jaguar Land Rover, it was a pretty interesting development last night, because as if in some sort of a show of strength and support, you had the JLR union writing to the Tata Group saying, listen, you need to act a little responsibly when it comes to completely winding down your operations in Tata Steel. I don't know, is there a sense that that's even some sort of a threat that's looming large?
In fact, that's the kind of pressure that the employees are working at right now, because if you look at it, they also understand that a letter from the JLR unions makes a lot of impact on the Tata Group, given the kind of dependence the Tata Motors, or the group for that matter, has on Jaguar Land Rover, the number of cars they are selling, the kind of profits they are making. It's a very important part of the Tata Group right now. So in that sense, a pressure from the JLR unions obviously would have a far larger impact on the Tata. So to that extent, I am sure that is one reason why they also are siding with the Steel Workers Union to find a middle ground in this whole fiasco.
Abhi, do stay with us. Let's also take it across to our colleague Danish Khan, who's joining in from London actually. And Danish is here to talk to us about what it is that the UK is hoping to achieve through these discussions with the Tata Group.
We contacted the office of Sajid Javid, and one of his team members said that they will get back to us, but there has been no response or statement from his office. Clearly, Sajid Javid doesn't want to reveal much, even as the meetings with Tatas are on. He will probably have a word with the union leaders and other stakeholders before coming out with the concrete proposal that they plan for the Port Talbot plant. The workers at the Jaguar Land Rover, meanwhile, have also written to Tatas, asking them, requesting them to ensure that they don't exit the steel industry, and that they give ample time to the government to ensure a smooth takeover.
Okay, Danish, thanks for that. So that's the on-ground report from London. But remember, the action is happening right here in Mumbai, right outside the Tata headquarters. That's the Bombay House. What you are seeing are live visuals of the UK Business Secretary walking out of that meeting, which was a 2-hour-long meeting, as our colleague Neha Bothra was saying. Let's in fact take it across to Neha. She's joining in live from right outside Bombay House. Well, at least when you look at those visuals, Neha, it seems to suggest that Mr. Javid is pretty pleased.
Well, yes, you could see the fiasco we had here. There was a lot of interest and people wanted to speak with him, wanted to interact with him. But it seems he was in a bit of a rush. He did not interact much with media at this point. But we are given to understand the meeting was pretty much on the lines we've been talking about. It was mostly a meeting to persuade Tata Steel management to reconsider their decision to exit and divest the loss-making steel plants in a rushed manner, in a time-bound manner, as the management put it. We are given to understand that the talks really hinged on waiting for a credible buyer to really come on board and take responsibility and ownership for the over 18,000 employees that are working at these plants and not really shut down the plants abruptly, because that would be a huge dent and a huge loss as far as the economy at this point is concerned, considering they are seeing deflationary trends also. More important from Tata Steel management's perspective, it is a call they have to make and stick to a call that they've made really, because it's been consecutive years, several quarters. It's not been an improvement that we have seen with respect to the Tata Steel's UK business. In fact, the losses have only been increasing. The business is bleeding profusely. It's weighing down the balance sheet of Tata Steel. Remember, at this point, it has a standalone debt of around 30,000 crore rupees that it wants to repay and see a healthier debt-equity ratio. And all these options could be explored if they focus on the domestic market at this point, which is ripe with opportunity, what with MIP coming in force. And the June quarter looks a lot more promising compared to the earlier quarters the company has seen, and the focus can only be sharpened if they exit the loss-making part of the business. It is a tough decision for the management to make, of course, but they are responsible to shareholders, as they have been saying time and again. In fact, last week they made it very clear that this is a decision they have taken and they would be exiting the business in a time-bound manner. So the matter of contention here really is how soon will they exit. The government is asking Tata Steel to relook the decision and give them more time as far as the transition is concerned from one owner to another owner. Also remember that the steel sector in the UK is not looking very promising at this point. Energy costs are high. There are cheap imports from China. And there are no import safeguards, so to say. So all these factors are making the steel industry in the UK not very exciting. And Tata Steel has taken a call to gradually divest its holding and investments in this country. But one point we need to remember here is that JLR is a jewel they have in their crown, also a British company in the UK. And there has been some pressure coming in from that end as well, urging the management to relook the decision, considering that 18,000 employees will be affected if it's a rash decision taken. So, although all in all, just to sum it up in a nutshell, a decision has been taken. Now the discussion mostly is to ensure that the transition is smooth. In fact, one area where the UK government has indicated plans to pitch in is with the liability payout for the pension fund. Remember, the pension fund, with a total size of around 15 billion pounds, has a liability payout around 1 billion pounds. And this is something I'm given to understand from sources the UK government is likely to pitch in and support Tata Steel management with. So I'm sure they would have discussed several of these options, and the roadmap will be clear in the coming days, of course.
All right, Neha, thanks so much for that exhaustive update. Neha Bothra from right outside Bombay House. Abhinava Das and Danish, both of you as well, thanks so much for those updates.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.